So I worked with a client that would literally check daily, like on the phone, like they get the Shopify app open. You can set a notification that it actually goes cha-ching when you get a new sale that goes to the checkout, right? And this client literally would have that on his phone.
Oh, no.
And it would go cha-ching, cha-ching.
I mean, dropping the price is basically changing the positioning of the business.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, if it's direct to consumer, you might annoy some customers who just bought it full price last week.
The serious competitors in that space were selling for thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
He priced it just a bit below them. And so to be considered, because he was kind of playing in that space before, but he was too cheap to even be considered.
Yeah, I'm gonna believe that one when I see that one. That's I'm putting that in that category. It still feels like it's not a consideration for how a human buys. Hello and welcome to Season 3 of the Push Podcast. My name's Jack Ferguson, an experienced brand strategist with a science background. I've worked in marketing for 15 years, have held numerous internal senior roles spanning national and international brands, and now I work as a consultant. In my career, I've worked across 25 industries and helped increase client and employer revenue by over $40 million. I will be your host. This season of the podcast is essential listening for marketers looking to better sell their strategies to stakeholders. I'll host senior marketers who will share stories, analogies, and mental models that help explain complex concepts to non-marketers, get client buy-in, and keep internal teams engaged. Whether you're in-house, agency side, or a consultant, I aim to equip senior marketers like you with tools to speak up, lead with confidence, and persuade others of your strategy's effectiveness. Thanks for being here, and don't forget to subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. Hello and welcome to Season 3, Episode 39 of the Push Podcast. Today my co-host is Ben Reeves. He's back in your ears after talking to you previously in Episode 33 of this season. If you don't know Ben, though, and you didn't listen to that episode, he started his career in hospitality and retail before pivoting into marketing over a decade ago. Since then, he's worked agency side, in-house, and platform side, including at well-known brands like Shopify. Now a seasoned e-commerce strategist, he's known for helping brands grow through smart, customer-first strategies. You can find links to his online profile in the description of this podcast, and you can also find links to my online profiles there as well, as always. Let's bring in Ben. Hello, Ben. How are you doing today, my friend?
Good. Been a long time no see.
Yes. Good to be chatting again on the podcast. I'm excited to talk to you as ever and share. What are we sharing today? We're talking about something that's dear to kind of both of us and is quite innate to our nature, which is that being that we are very long-term focused people, I think, in a world or a marketing world that loves short-term. Loves it. Absolutely loves it. Loves sales today, wants sales today.
Or yesterday.
Yeah.
Or the week before.
And last week, yes. And last month and before the business was even started.
Yes.
But I think it's a lot of people come across this. A lot of marketers have this problem with balancing short-term and long-term. For me, perhaps I'm almost do the long-term in almost some sort of defiance as well at times. Because it annoys me so much that the industry is so short-term focused, or we're expected to be so short-term focused that I'll rebel and go, oh, well, this will pay off in a year or 18 months. But I think we share some stories around this. Like, let's speak to how what your experience is like with this, what mine is like with it. But we've had similar experiences, I know, in brands that we've worked for where we've had owners who would check sales just like regularly.
Or clients,
Yeah, clients. By regularly, I mean like maybe daily.
Yeah.
Maybe every 2 days, maybe weekly, and really take that to heart and really make decisions with today's results.
Yes.
This week's results.
Totally. So if you're a marketer or you work in product growth and you've had a client, owner, or someone who's changed their mind or on the whim has said something one day and has changed it the next, this episode is for you. So definitely on the double clicking on the hourly or like the frequency and short turnaround. So it's interesting, right? I as you and I have listed before, long-term thinking, and mainly like I see long-term thinking as like framework or systems orientated view, in that if a task has to be done more than once, it should have a process documented, right? For all those involved, like we mentioned in, episode 1, where it's like, what was the checklist or what was the procedure that needed to be followed? And so it can be repeatable, it can be efficient. Balancing, like you said, between the short term, the results of yesterday is that I was working with a client, and it was an e-commerce brand, and I love working in e-commerce, love working with founders and merchants, and when you start a business, it's probably one of the best feelings in the world is getting sales, right? Like getting that first sale and then hearing, like getting the sales after that,
That's
especially
true. Yeah.
And so it makes sense that you'd want to check as frequently as you can what's happening to your site, right? So you just get a pulse, like it's a living entity, especially when it's direct to consumer. Sales can be made 24/7. So I worked with a client that would literally check daily, like on the phone, like get the Shopify app open. And Shopify app actually, if you don't have an e-commerce store, but you can set a notification that it actually goes cha-ching when you get a new sale that goes to the checkout, right? And so this client literally would have that on his phone. Oh no. And it would go cha-ching, cha-ching. And he had to mute it in meetings, right? But really exciting. But one of the challenging things that I found with working with that particular client was it was good to have finger on the pulse. Hey, what post went live? What email went live? Or what activity has kind of done this surge of sales? The hard part was when optimizations or changes fundamentally to the pages on the website would be made, right? I'm talking like pricing without consideration. Like, it's, hey, well, it's not going, I'm not getting as many notifications as I should or sales.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's drop the price,
wow.
Right? Let's drop the price. Oh, let's change this here. Let's move these stars here, or let's, put this image here and make these changes almost like overnight,
and almost to get the cha-ching like happening.
Yeah,
probably.
It's addictive, right? Like,
I can imagine,
especially when you're going, okay, cool. Well, I know the margins on each one of those products. So, and it was not so much that it was. It's maybe when you're starting out and it's your own business, it's probably like a really good thing, right? Like, you're like, oh, I'm going to edit this, and it doesn't really impact anyone, right? But when there's a program or schedule of work to be done, and then there's you know what? I think just because I feel that this will make an improvement because I think I know my customers, or I have this hypothesis, but there's no way to measure it. Like if you have a hypothesis, at least set up like a split test, right? Or at least kind of do some kind of form of measurement. And the measurement has to be like the same group or sample size at the same time doing the thing, not just we'll make this change, we'll make 10 different changes and we don't know which one. I know that, it's that saying, it's like, I know half my marketing works and half my doesn't. I just don't know which half, kind of works. And this is that thing. It's like, what change caused or what impact did that price reduction make? Or what impact did the moving that image there, or turning that into a video, or writing these words here and having this bold. And the thing about it now is there's so many, it used to do my head in as managing this client, because it would be, I'm going, how do we, over time, how do we get more sales, and how do we know demonstrably what caused that lift in revenue, add to cart value, or conversion, or increase conversion, or increase traffic, and being able to measure it in some way so you can repeat it again.
Yeah,
right.
And for it to be sustainable.
Totally.
Yeah.
Whereas if the changes are happening so frequently, it's at a point. I think maybe starting out, you really need to sort of like just do things, make stuff work, and not worry about the long term. But when you're in this business had been around for almost a decade at this stage, and had no systems and no way for optimizing. It's like always relied on externals to kind of do that. I could see why this business was capped at the level it was and is stagnated there, because it had no long-term vision. It was always about today.
Yeah. And especially dropping the price is basically changing the positioning of the business.
Oh, absolutely.
If it's direct to consumer, you might annoy some customers who just bought it full price last week. And also, discounting, you're probably going to have people who are going to buy it anyway, just capitalize on the discount. So
totally. Well, it's funny you say that about the customers who bought the other day. That happened, and customers would ask for a refund, and we'd do the difference, right?
Yeah.
And that was kind of because they'd seen the price had done. But, because the alternative is we say no refunds. Then they go, okay, well, I'm going to cancel my product entirely, cancel my order entirely and order at the new price.
Yes,
So
yes.
it kind of had to cater for that. But it was infrequent, but it was more so the sporadic nature of just short term. If it's short term is good, but if you're doing short term every day or every week or every hour, and there's a team that needs to make and update these changes, it's not just like, okay, cool, delete here and do, fortunately, you can kind of do that on Shopify or other platforms. It's very easy to edit yourself. However, when there's other teams involved and other programs at work, it gets really meddlesome over time and draining.
Well, yeah, and everyone has to stop doing what they're doing to then go, okay, we've got to make these new changes. Then we've got to put what we were talking about 2 days ago on hold.
But the expectation is, you get to the end of the month, you go, oh, well, why didn't this thing happen?
Yeah,
it's like,
and then, why was it no sales?
because the ad hoc request came in every day and there was additional work. So, that was the...
Yeah.
I'm
imagining like a car, you're trying to drive to a destination and then someone's in the passenger seat and they go, turn left. Why? Oh, just turn left. And you turn left. And then, you go, you go down that way for a while and then like, turn right. Okay, turn right. And then you sort of get to this. They do this a few times and then you end up somewhere, obviously. Yeah. And then like, why aren't we where we wanted to be? It's like, because we've turned left and then we turned right and then we went all the way up this road. Yeah. And we were meant to go south and now we're 200 kilometers north.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that. It's like one thing that does my head in, it doesn't really happen anymore with Ubers, but taxis were more of a thing. And when they wouldn't put the location inside the GPS, it's like, I told you the address, so then we can just go there, right?
Yeah.
Instead, I'm having to navigate. I have to be a co-pilot to this person I'm paying to drive, to give me a ride, and I'm having to do the directions. And it's like, if you just plugged it into your nav, your nav man back then, or your TomTom, then we'd be on our way. Thankfully that's not so much a thing, but that's maybe a little microcosm of bigger things to play. But what about your experience with few clients or employ on the short term?
Yeah, I have. I remember a few things. One in particular is where this was a sort of an in-person brand, like in-person stores that weren't very much focused online.
Oh, yeah. So offline. So, people come in to experience.
Like a retail store.
Yes.
And with them...
You had a new launch or a new opening?
No, that I'll get to that one. But the person... they did have an online component where you could buy some stuff, but nothing was set up to really push that, and it didn't make a lot of sense with the brand to sell online. It just wasn't a great thing to sell online. It's much better in person to
can you give us a bit more?
It's retail, but you kind of have to experience it. So
okay, very ominous.
Yeah, and he would set up automated weekly reports for the online section sales. And we weren't doing anything week to week. This wasn't really designed it wasn't great to be sold online. We didn't really have, it was a smaller brand, so we didn't have any distribution power as far as getting a heap of people to the website anyway at the time. And I was getting these weekly reports about the online sales that weren't moving. There was some, but they weren't going to move, and they weren't going to move. And if they were going to move, it was going to be tiny.
So there's no paid ads necessarily.
And even if there was, it wouldn't have done anything.
Okay,
and it was just this situation where it really annoyed me because this person wanted people to buy online, for the tracking and, if we can get online going, then there's a perception you can control it. Or we just crank up the ads and we just, we put $1 into the vending machine, we get $4 out. Well, let's put in, $200 and we get $800 out. And
just print some money.
Yeah, exactly. So, but with no consideration to whether the business was set up to do that, no consideration to whether that was an experience that any customer actually wanted to buy. And when it showed, because they didn't want to really buy that way, and it just wasn't a great way to buy in that situation. So that annoyed the shit out of me because it's like the principle's so low. I'm getting weekly sales reports about, a few $100 a week.
Were you having to do the sales report?
I got CC'd. No, I didn't do them. I got CC'd in on it. And
it'd be extra
no,
if you had to create the sales report.
Yeah, no, that would have crushed my soul. But no, I didn't do that. But that was an example of just a bit of delusion, I guess, and just this idealism of let's get the online part going and then let's just crank everything up and that will be amazing. That feeling that people have that they want to have control and they want to see, I put in $1 here, I get $4 out here, and they want to just see that happen as if it's, something you put $1 into and you get $4 out, and you can just see the whole funnel,
right?
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you say that. It's like, Google Analytics, was like, it was like the, not so much now, but, was the staple of, most brands online maybe like 5 years ago. And, back then when they built it, it was like the linear journey, right? Someone logs in on one device, maybe like 15 years ago, has one laptop, and they go in that one browser and they view it, they see the ad, they click through it. It's all, it's all trackable on one device, right? But now, especially with like online and offline sales, it's like how many of us have a phone, right? And then how many of us work at a screen? Now a small screen, maybe we have two bigger screens, plug in our smaller screen that's portable, and then when we get home, we watch the big screen on our smaller screen, like this multi-device and like omni-channel experience of, hey, maybe I saw that ad on this device at my lunch break, and then maybe I bought it on my laptop at home or something like that. And it got me thinking around like so many brands are fixated on being able to track, like you said, like control every interaction. I'm telling you now, like, I worked for, Shopify and big brands, and like, I've seen some of the back end of that. No one brand has it all figured out. There's some smart analytics and definitely some good models you can do that and like being able to attribute. But, the biggest thing here is it's just being able to go, how much did we put into marketing overall and how profitable was that? Like what is the contribution margin of those products versus, trying to, this ad over here with this copy and that color got really good over there. And the crazy thing now is Zuckerberg came out with this the other week, is like the ideal is maybe ad agencies don't have a place anymore in that you just upload the creative or your target audience, you give it some products and it creates the ads, the copy, the targeting for you. The thing is, how many people use Meta AI? I don't really use it, but I'm sure there's a whole bunch of people that use that to search, find their friends and be connected. But
I'm gonna believe that one when I see that one. That's I'm putting that in that category. It still feels like it's not a consideration for how a human buys.
Well, so on the how human buys, this happened years ago, and this is the offline to like purchase path, right? And years ago, my wife and I, we were in a shopping centre. Actually, if you live in Brisbane, fun fact, it was the Indooroopilly shopping centre. And you know how they have those, sometimes they have like display cars? Like, so you can, try the car and, there's someone, usually there's like two cars and you kind of sit in this, just see how it is. Well, I did that, right? I was like, I got in this car. It was like it was a Mazda. It doesn't matter what the brand was, but I got in, I was like, this is really small. Can't barely see out these windows. Who would buy this car, right? I'm not kidding. Fast forward 2 or 3 years later, we bought that exact car of that year model. Whatever,
really?
maybe it wasn't like the later model.
Okay.
But and then I thought back, it's like, where did we first experience this brand and make a model? Yeah. And I go, you know what? It was that. It was
the shopping center.
The shopping center.
Yeah, nice.
I didn't complete any details either. No. Like, I don't think my wife did either. But it was just so interesting that like there's no like analytics tool that's going to be able to track that experience of buying a car, that I went to a mall and then I went a couple of years later to go actually buy that car, buy that car. And I thought back, I was like, it obviously works. And that time period is not trackable, but it definitely, So,
well, and it's not trackable, the conversations that happen behind closed doors with people that influences sales greatly. You know what I mean? So there's so many things, but and I guess that's the short term attraction as well for people, is this idea it can be just all tracked, and it's this linear path that all these people are going to go through and they're going to buy, and we can just keep sending them along the conveyor belt and we'll just win. But I think with short term too, I get frustrated, like I've seen at times, and maybe similar to what you were talking about before, but it's quite common, that panic and then to reduce the price. So this idea that you just reduce price of something, an owner might panic, we need more sales, let's reduce the price. I mean, that's the bane of my existence. I cannot stand that approach, because the thing is too, you then have to promote the new price. Like, how are you going to tell people? So you're going to probably spend money to get it in front of people. If you're just going to put it on your website and that, you were going to get that traffic probably anyway, and now you're going to just give them a discount. And this like kind of knee-jerk reaction with price being, and I guess I was thinking about it before when you were talking, is that it's one of the P's of marketing. Like it's a serious tactical consideration, price. It's not something to just muck around with. It's something to give the same amount of consideration to as advertising.
Or even just building the product fundamentally.
Yeah, and product as well. Yeah.
Oh, I've heard of it was an air filter brand, right? I think it was an air filter brand, but this guy in the US was selling an air filter brand, and he wasn't drop shipping, but he kind of like got his own brand together and started selling it. And what he realized, he had it price pointed, I think it was like the $500 mark, right? So it was kind of like a consumer level grade, and he was getting very few sales, right? And what happened was he did research into the market, and on the direct to consumer side, that's probably like expensive or like, expensive range for the air purifiers. However, when you go to the business context and you're going to a dental surgery or a doctor's practice for an air purifier, it's actually on a very cheap end of the spectrum. And so when he found this out, he actually, same make and model, increased the price, went for a different target audience, and priced him, because the serious competitors in that space were selling for the thousands of dollars. He priced it just a bit below them. And so to be considered, because he was kind of playing in that space before, but he was too cheap to even be considered. And, when you think about luxury or, depending on what the brand is, but like you don't see Bentley's advertising on the TV. Right, like Bentley's are advertising, and this is some famous marketer guy said that, but it's like they're advertising it like people have private jets. Like that's where that so it's like you got to really know your positioning, your product positioning to impact the price. But that short term, that play, and something that gets me thinking about that now is with the tools we have available as marketers, and I work in like e-commerce and digital, so particularly how easy it is to spin something up. So we're talking about a new landing page, we're talking about a new product, we're talking about an email series with little to no code for, with most what you see is what you get editors these days. I worked on a campaign many years ago where it was this product had gone through, manufacturing, design, sourcing, it had come back on, it's back in the warehouse, ready to go. I started working with this client and they were like, oh, by the way, we've got all these products to launch. We need someone to load them onto the website. They hadn't had someone in this role for a while. So they had this backlog or queue of products they wanted. And on the same day, they wanted the products live on the website, configured from their enterprise resourcing system into their website, and having that linked and the front end done, and the marketing is having all that done. Put it, and I'm working across like 5 spreadsheets, pulling product data, marketing info. I'm going over to this Google Drive to pull these like product photos, upload them here. Make sure that these are synced, and like this color is linked to that color and all that stuff, as well as set the emails up. Put the tracking on the emails, set up the targeting. Like it was just all launched in one like day, and I was just going, why has no one ever in this role considered, hey, when we create a product, and I think that treat like your website, this is how I see it, it's like your website like a physical store. I know it's a bit easier than that, but what you'd invest in a retail fit out is actually really considered. Like you think about the shelf space, like what products you're merchandising, location and all that stuff. People don't treat it's almost too easy to create something now. And that was
easy. It's perceived to be easy to change things as
correct.
Well. Yeah.
Easy to change things. And like while that may be the case, it's also that my long-term brain was going, okay, what should happen? And just for further context, these files where I was getting the data, it was like an email thread that was not on a shared drive. So it wasn't a shared like, hey, here's the product information and we're all using the same spreadsheet. It was all separate, right? So I had to download the files from the attachment. I'm working from my thing, but if I make an update, I've got to then email someone and go, hey, Jack, guess what? I've just made updates to like these columns or these rows of product, and upload that again so everyone had a shared updated version. You got to make sure you're using the latest version. And And so version control was non-existent. But that short-term, long-term thinking was just like, hey, let's get everything live now. And I'm like,
you spent years manufacturing this, and now you want me to do all this in one day.
Yeah, it's like you've spent like how much time like sourcing, product accounting, getting the product, designing it, then costing and resourcing. Like it's quite a lengthy process. So,
but we're in marketing, mate, so we need to get it all done today.
All done today, and especially if you're in marketing, you should just know how digital works.
Yeah.
Also, paid SEO, development, design, product shoots, like
software development. Yeah, get in there and do some coding, mate.
Yeah, just spin it up. Actually, it's funny. That was at one of the agencies I worked with, me and my coworker. It was like the 3-step process to creating anything. It was like brief it. No, it was 2 steps actually.
Yeah.
No, it was 3. It was ideate, like think it, brief it, spin it up. That was it. Like, and that was kind of the process. And we're just like, that's not as easy as it is, Like, and especially like that company I worked for, that agency, we did like big, complex software builds as well. And it's we're talking about like backlog of like stuff that could be worked on in the 100 plus of stuff, and it's just ruthless prioritization. And that's where project management's like agile, or like, hey, what are we working on as a versus these sequential sort of stuff, but just understanding how that fits in as well. So that long-term and short-term planning, I think that it just really comes down to like what tools you have as a team, a digital team or marketing team, and then how you manage that workload in that period of time as well. So,
well, I do want to be positive about the long term, because we do love the long term.
Oh yeah,
and I think a couple of stories that come to mind about where long term is effective is actually podcast related for the most part, because I did another podcast with another client of mine who the idea was just to meet the guests and meet C-suite people.
Oh, that's smart. Wait, so
I got them on. Yeah, go on.
You got them on the podcast to like build that relationship.
Yes. So,
they were the customer. They were the ideal client.
They were the prospects. Yeah. So, but it gave us, we got a chance to meet them. We got really good market intel, even if they didn't become a client, because you bring them in person, and then
and they're talking about their specialty and their niche, and where else you get like an hour or 2 hours talking to someone, right now for those
C-suite,
C-suite, like listening to them and just having a conversation about their domain, their industry. Wow, that's
well. I mean, the privilege, I guess, for me is that to look back. That's about 6 years ago now, and to see that pretty much that business has basically grown off the back of that.
Wow,
everything has, and I'm talking 6 years. Some of those people took to become clients.
That's playing the long game.
Yeah, but I mean, there was wins along the way, but it was a huge long-term play. It was very effective. It's still around today. I mean, most podcasts don't get to, I think, rarely get over 20 episodes. That one's on about 120 at least.
Wow. Was it unique to that industry as well?
Yeah, not many people were doing what we were doing with that podcast.
Because that's another cut through kind of.
Yeah, we had 95% of them had never been on a podcast, so that was a unique experience we could give the guest. But yeah, that was a really long-term effective. There was always going to be long-term. But also, even with this podcast, like starting this up this season again, I felt like I've got a brand here. I feel like I do want to start podcasting again. I didn't really know what it was though. So I didn't know what the push was a little while ago.
Not for this season, but you're talking back when you were revisiting the push.
No, for this season. So season 3, when I went to start that up again, I'm like, I'm just going to do this for a little while. I'm sure it'll become clear to me what it is. The world will tell me. Just do what I think is right. And I had things that didn't work, but I wasn't too worried about what happened tomorrow or the next week or whatever. It was just do a ton of episodes and see what the feedback is. One of those people that gave me feedback was you, actually, around, and that was surprising to me because, okay, you're a senior marketer. You're the one getting value out of it, which I didn't plan for it to be for senior marketers.
Who had you planned it originally?
I kind of had a loose idea that it was going to be for more your CEO types who wanted to learn more about marketing.
I think rarely CEOs
I know.
want to learn. They know about marketing already, right? They already know what is happening. I know. And they don't need to be told what is happening in marketing.
Yeah. And that's the point, isn't it? So the only ones who actually want to listen to this are marketers.
Yeah. So, that's what the feedback was like, I resonate. So if you're listening to us now and going, I hear you guys, like get in touch. Like it's like, there's definitely like sharing war stories. And that's something I found comforting is like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm not in it alone. While I may be like a one person, marketing team or digital team right now, it's like listening to those war stories on my commute to work was like, it was comforting, you know, like to say the least. So,
which, wasn't the intended effect though, but I had to do it and then listen to what value people were getting from it. And then they told me. And then I'm like, okay, well, that's what it is. So, and I've talked about this before. I don't know if I've talked about it on the podcast actually, but it's quite the experience to just do something and then let it tell you what it is. You know, you have to have your own thing to be able to do that because no employer or client's going to probably let you do that. But that's been really enjoyable. That's been really enjoyable to go, I'm going to grow this thing and just it will tell me what it is and I'll listen. And I'll pivot accordingly. So
I think on that listening part, though, it's like you got to be like, you're a big advocate of the voice of the customer and doing the research. Like, a lot of, in the projects that we've worked on together has been like evidence-based marketing around, hey, you may have a product or you may have, have been in market or service for a while, but like, do you ever like call your customers or find out how they're feeling about your product or service they're offering? And that's something that you do is like, it was insightful in the project that we worked together was like, actually our customers are saying this and we thought it was completely different. And, that's that short-term versus long-term in a way is like, sometimes, I think most businesses start out with some form of, hey, I've got a problem that I've solved for myself, or I think I can solve for other people, right? Whether you're making people, fitter, or you're, trimming up their bank accounts or saving them time or whatever. I remember running a campaign for a company, and they were a higher education provider and not a university. And so just for context, so what happens when you leave school? People, say go to university, study, get a good job, or go to TAFE or whatever. And so everyone is spending their money in that space in higher education to like school leavers, because that's like where it matters, right? Where am I deciding to spend my money to upskill next? And so we ran this campaign for this they weren't the biggest company, but it doesn't really matter. It was more so we ran social media ads for them, and when we looked at the conversion numbers and like the demographic data, we're going, oh, actually, you know what? It's not the school leavers that are actually like converting the highest. It's actually like the 24 to 30-year-old, female. It's like, and when we provided that information back, they were like, actually, you know what? They're also stickier. Like they're our best customers. Like because one of the biggest things for higher education is like completion rate, right? So you may have enrollments, and that's like kind of the first step, but the completion rate is what ultimately is the end outcome of that, and then job placement after that. And so it was that feedback that we gave them just on running their ads. We actually saw in the data it was actually cheaper, more cost effective, and they had a bigger success rate with an audience that they saw the data of, but they didn't see it until we put it into marketing context. So that changed the marketing plan. It's like, actually, we don't need to invest money in where everyone else is targeting. It's like kind of like we're going to fish over here. And so like, and that's, figuring it out as you do it, versus like, hey, well, just because we've always done it this way and we just need leads in the door. Well, if we needed leads urgently, maybe the higher education for adults is a better market than the school leavers. And that was a really insightful sort of learning in that. And we made, more decisions off the back of that. But that was something where it was really informative about, listening to your customers around just doing something and figuring it out.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think it is valuable to think about a brand as like a living, breathing thing. I know it's not, but it's not. I mean, it's not.
Okay, it's not like
Kmart's not a living, breathing organism.
Mr. Rental is though.
Mr. Rental is.
Wendy,
but and you do think about like it has to grow, and it will tell you things that it needs. Yeah, you have to listen. Like some of it's about you pushing forward, but a lot of it's about you listening and then adjusting to what you're told.
What the market's telling you.
What the market's telling you. So, very cool. I'm still bullish on my long-term play. I think I do push that very hard just because a lot of people I come across are very short-term focused. Obviously in reality, we have to get short-term sales as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was my thoughts are just that, you're not alone, I guess, with this one. Like, the short-term versus long-term, I don't know if that's a very we're not going to solve that overnight. But
I think it's a balancing act.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, what are your stakeholders, whether that be client, CEO, or, whoever you're reporting into, and, looking at firstly, like what are the outcomes, and, something that can help, I found has helped me in my career and working with clients and working in house is establishing like the mission or the goal set up front. Upfront contract, or understanding what is the end objective, and not being fixated on the vehicle that gets us to that destination point. We mentioned about the GPS sort of example. It's like, well, we know that we want to end in this direction. That's an idea, but it's like, that there's that saying where you need to know what your North Star is on the activity and what determines success, because in order for you, I guess, in a podcast context, it's like I think that's something where you can bet long term, because you've got the safety net to do that. In some businesses, maybe they need the next dollar or next week of sales to do that. So it's kind of like the urgency sometimes comes from what is the cash flow situation? Like, what is the cash conversion cycle from when someone hears about it, we pay for that advertising, to when they actually money lands in our account. That's kind of like, so understanding those things, I think, in an organization. And you know what, to be honest, I would say most small businesses, or may not know what that is, but maybe that's an investigation piece of understanding that. But I definitely think it works to play. How do you structure your weeks, or your around what needs to be done today in order for tomorrow to be better? And if it's not all, maybe it's like initially 80% short term, 20% long term, and then you kind of try and balance that out over time. Yes. From a marketing perspective, making sure you're still getting your Mother's Day campaign out, or Father's Day campaign out for tomorrow, but you're also going, okay, you know what, we want to offer. We want to build an international site, or stuff in the long term as well. So balancing those things between it.
A great way to end. Ben, where can people find you if they want to come and say hi?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on LinkedIn. So that's Ben Reeves. And
I think you probably need to spell Reeves more so than you to spell Ben.
Keanu, Christopher, Reeves. That's Reeves. benreeves.co. So benreeves.co. Connect on LinkedIn, or you can find my latest articles on my website.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Push Podcast. Please remember to subscribe, and if you are enjoying the episodes, please leave a review of the podcast on your platform of choice. It really helps to build the podcast credibility and to help others find this type of information.